The joy of weeding. Use the weeds as a frog shelter. Use the weeds as soil builders. Use them as insect repellent. Yeah, there we go. Oh, why not rub it on my beard? That's the thing. You know, just wipe any spark. So many uses. Use the weeds. They're right there. If you have a plant that needs propping up, you got weeds all over the place that can help. Hello and welcome to Willow's Green Permaculture. We're now the beginning of June, and actually the garden's maybe not right here precisely, but the garden's starting to look more like the end of June. It's been growing like crazy, and this time of year, when you've got exponential growth everywhere of your vegetables and all the other plants, what you also got an exponential growth of are weeds. And sometimes that can seem a little bit overwhelming. But I'm here to tell you that weeds can help you in the garden in so many ways. And so today, I'm going to show you all the ways that weeds can help you in the garden, so that while you're weeding the garden, you can do so many other things, or while you're doing other stuff in the garden, because often I'll see the weeds growing when I'm watering or transplanting, and I think, oh, I got to pick those, I got to get rid of those, etc. And but so often I'll need to do something and I don't have what I need. Maybe I need gloves. Maybe I need some compost. Maybe I need some mulch. But I have weeds. And the weeds can do all those jobs for me and more. So today's video is really, I think it's a really fun and interesting video. I'm going to show you all the different things you can do with your weeds. You've heard about eat the weeds, and if you haven't, well, I'll do that video for you, but another time. Today's not about eating the weeds, because there are lots of weeds that we can eat, and there's also lots of weeds you can give to your chickens, or you can give to your goats, or other animals. But today's video is not about that. It's about how the weeds can actually help you in your garden. So if you're curious about that, then let's get started. As I was getting this video ready, talk about the weeds, this morning, nature gave me a little nudge. At least that's how I feel, a little wink. Because we had another visit of a snapping turtle, but this time, this was a snapping turtle. She was laying her eggs, making a nest. That was really nice. I'm going to be building a shelter for that nest. So hopefully I'll be able to show you how that goes. Right now I've protected the nest, but it's only a temporary protection because the protection I've given it, the hatchlings won't be able to get out. But I've got time to make the protection because apparently they're not going to hatch for another at least 2 months. But we'll see. So we're the beginning of June, around the beginning or middle of August. So I need to make a nice looking nest protector that is effective. But I say nature nudged me because I was very thankful about seeing that turtle, and I'm very thankful about everything that nature gives. And one thing nature is giving in abundance right now is weeds. And so today's video is about that, about using the weeds, because you always have weeds. And so it's great that there are so many ways you can use them. And one thing that I didn't mention in the intro is I always like to find what's good in everything. And when we first moved here and I saw poison ivy, I was a little bit discouraged. But when I realized that it feeds the deer in the winter, I thought, okay, that's important. So we got to find a way to live with the poison ivy, to respect the poison ivy. I haven't found a use for poison ivy apart from the deer and maybe other animals that eat it. I'm certainly not going to use poison ivy in some of the ways that I talk about in this video. There's some weeds that you can't use, let's say, and some weeds that you don't want in your garden either. Like one is a dog strangling vine. I haven't found any use for that either. So let's get started with our first useful weed. So these are a couple of burdock leaves. Looks a bit like rhubarb, but it's not rhubarb. It's burdock. And burdock it's actually edible, but very, very bitter. You can use this after a bee sting. You take the leaf and you rub it on the bee sting, and the pain goes away. You can also use burdock. Let's say you want to grab a plant that maybe has thorns on it, and little thorns, or maybe it's something for some reason you don't want to have, you don't have gloves and you want to use a glove. Well, you can use the burdock as a glove and pull the plant maybe 2 layers thick. Also, what I like to do with burdock is I like to rub it on my skin like this, all over my exposed skin. I'll rub it, and the insects just do not like it, because like I said earlier, it's edible, but it's very, very bitter, and so the insects don't like it. Sometimes I'll even put it under my collar to like this, under my collar, so, to protect any of my exposed areas from insect bites. But the mosquitoes aren't too bad today. That's something I like to do with burdock. Let's go to the next plant. Oh, there's right here. This here, not the best example in the world, but this is some curly dock going to seed, and you can do much the same thing with curly dock as with burdock. If you get a bee sting, you rub the leaves on the sting and the pain goes away. So these are 2 very useful weeds to have in the garden. Well, the weeds are just a general term. I don't really like to use the word weeds, but for clarity's sake, I'll use it. But they're medicinal plants, they're useful plants, some of them are edible plants. They're just great plants all around. Let's go on to the next plant. You can also use burdock to shade any plants that maybe you just transplanted on a sunny day. Give them some shade. No shade? Shade. This is plantain. This is another plant that's edible, and it's also good for burns or any kind of injuries. You just mush it up until you feel the juice coming out, and then you rub it on your burn or on your injury, and it will help it heal. Very good weed to have. Another use for weeds. Still got this burdock, but it can be any type of weed. You're not getting too much rain. You water, and you want to keep the soil moist after you water, and you got a bunch of weeds around, then just put them on the soil at the base of your plants, especially the ones that look like they need protection. They need the soil to stay moist. Use it as a mulch as you would leaves or anything else. Here's another example of curly dock. Use it to mask the smell of your other plants. So these are some potato shoots that are behaving like a weed in my 3 sisters bed. So I'm pulling the shoots like this. I'm pulling them and I'm putting them around my squash sprouts to protect them from the cucumber beetle. You can see there's some older ones here. I've got a bit of dandelion here. I can do the same thing with that. I've got a bit of creeping Charlie here. I'm not going to do the same with that because the creeping Charlie readily sprouts roots on its stems, and therefore I'm not going to put that as a mulch at the base of my plants, because then I'm just going to get more creeping Charlie in the garden. But here's a bunch of dandelion leaves. They will help mask my pumpkins and squash from the cucumber beetles. Just put that there, and the beetles might smell the dandelion instead of the squash and the pumpkins. Do you have a plant that needs propping up? Well, here's the thing. You got weeds all over the place that can help. Here's some. Here's some. Here's some. Here's some. Here's some. Right here at my fingertips. Here's some. And if I want some big pieces, well, back here amongst the garlic, I've got a whole bunch of jewelweed. I don't know if you can see me. And here I got some dandelion. Whole bunch of dandelion here. Bit of plantain. Some grass. Some grass that's moving in too close to my onions. More dandelion. All right, I think I got enough here. Now I got a prop for my cabbage. So I'm just gonna stand this up and I'm gonna put it around the base of the cabbage. And I'm gonna take a little bit more, put it on the other side. A few more weeds around here. And why am I gonna go look for something when I got everything I need here? And why am I gonna take my weeds out of the garden when I can use them right here? I'm just gonna prop this up, and then this will just keep it standing until it manages to stand up on its own feet. Use the weeds as a prop. Prop up your vegetables. Here in my garlic, I've got a whole bunch of jewelweed growing. It's also called touch-me-not. A whole bunch of it growing. And this stuff, I don't know how it got here. Anyway, I love this stuff. Because this jewelweed here, which has got really stems full of water, this is a great after mosquito bite lotion. You just squeeze these stems up, rub them up, and then you rub those juicy stems on your mosquito bite. And it's almost like washing it with soap. And if you have some water, you can rinse it afterwards. But if not, your skin will absorb it and it'll be fine. And then the mosquito bite won't itch afterwards. It's really great. That's jewelweed. Use it as an after mosquito bite lotion to get rid of the itch. And then when you're done with it, use it as a mulch at the base of your plants. Keep them nice and moist. You've seen frogs and you want to keep them in your garden. You want to give them you want to make them feel welcome, and you want to give them some shelter. Well, you can use logs, you can use wood chips, but also if you don't have any of that, you can use weeds. All you need to do is take a whole bunch of weeds. Here, and once again, I'm taking some of this jewelweed out of my garlic patch. Crumple them up a little. Bigger pile would be good. And then just find a spot in your garden to put them. Anywhere where you'd like to see the frogs, and just put it on the ground, and the frogs will use that as shelter. They'll hide under that when they need to, and they'll eat all your bugs and your slugs and your snails for you. Use the weeds, frog and toad shelter, as you would broken pottery, pieces of wood, or wood chips. I got a ton of weeds around the base of my peas, my sugar snap peas, my snow peas. But once again, if ever I need to pick something, maybe I've got a little stem of poison ivy that I need to pick, or maybe a little bit of raspberry cane that I want to move, or rose cane or something. And I don't have my gloves on me because I'm not a big fan of using gloves, but there are some situations where it's necessary. Well, I just grab a whole bunch of these and I'll use them as a glove. Now, I don't have any of those things I mentioned here, but I'll show you how I do it. So let's say for example, this is a stem of something that I want to grab that is maybe is thorny. So I just put a whole bunch of leaves between my fingers and that stem, and then kind of fold them up a little like this, and make sure that only the leaves come into contact. If I need more, I grab more. There we go. And I pull, and there you go. My hands aren't in contact with that stem. So I'm using the weeds as a glove. Now, and then I can go put that wherever I need to put it. Now right now I've got all these here, and what I can use these for, I'll show you in a sec. Use the weeds as soil builders. So this is the lowest corner of my garden. When we first moved in here, and this was all just grass, this whole area right up to where the camera is, and even behind the camera, this was all underwater, under a few, several centimeters or inches of water. And so it's an area I like to constantly be building. It's right next to our rain garden, and behind me here, which is home to all our frogs. We've made that rain garden to collect the rainwater so it can stay there close to our garden. And so I like to build the soil here, and so I got all these weeds I collected earlier to use as a glove, and now I can just put it here and build the soil just by piling up my weeds here in this corner. Now, I've got my compost pile, but I like to have little mini compost pile everywhere. Now I can either eventually use this as compost, or I can or just simply let it stay here and it'll build the soil. Or I can take this and I can put it, got a bunch of carrots here that are in amongst these onions, and there are a whole bunch of other weeds around them. I can put this at the base of my carrots to keep the other weeds off the carrots. And also, weeds, they're full of nutrients, just like any other plant, full of nutrients. And so when you pick them like this and pull them and you put them at the base of your plants, you're giving those other plants more nutrients. That's why it's important not to pull your weeds and take them out of the garden, because then you're just taking the nutrients away from your garden. So use them, use the weeds. They're full of nutrients. They can be used as mulch. They can be used as medicines. They can be used as you can clean your hands. Your hands are all dirty, full of, full of soil and so on, and you don't have any water with you. You're not wearing gloves. Well, wash your hands with the weeds. Obviously, don't wash your hands with poison ivy, but wash your hands with the weeds that you can wash your hands with. And I was talking about this corner that I've been building the soil in. I've also got an old broken mug here and a broken clay pot here. I'm not going to pull it up because it's got stuff growing through it. Both of these are, once again, frog shelters, because I was telling you about that. Here's some more curly dock right beside me here. Seed stem here, and the leaves get thinner when it goes to seed. But these leaves are also great for if you touch what I've got right here, stinging nettle. I'm not going to touch it because it hurts. But if I did touch it, I just take this leaf and I rub where the stinging nettle touched my skin and where it hurts, and the pain goes away. Just like if you get a bee sting. So bee sting or stinging nettle, curly dock, or burdock that I showed you earlier. Both work really well. And then when you're done with it, mulch in the garden, soil building, compost. Keep compost a little bit everywhere. Weeds, just use it for your compost. Obviously, if you got some really some weeds that are invasive, that are problematic and they've gone to seed, you want to cut off the part with the seeds and maybe not keep that in your garden. But every other part of the weed is fine, unless it's something that, for instance, I told you about creeping Charlie. It grows roots on its stem, so I don't use that as a mulch. Mint is the same thing. Mint readily grows roots on its stem. Got some mint right here. I love mint. All right, another thing, weeds are food. Mint can become a weed, okay? Now, anywhere where you see the leaves touching the stem, like right here, and right here, and right here, it can grow roots. And so I am not going to use this as a mulch with my plants because I don't have mint all over my garden. Outside of my garden is fine to keep the animals out. But I do have to be careful that the mint doesn't come into the garden eventually. Although if it does, I just pull it all, dry it up, and use it in the garage workshop in the wintertime to keep my potatoes clean and other vegetables that I store. I keep the dried mint around all the vegetables as a way to keep them from going moldy or keep the mice away from them or anything like that. Use the weeds. I got carrots growing here with my onions, and right at the base of lots of the carrots we've got different weeds. Here's some more plantain I can show you. There's a lot of moisture in the soil here. Here's some plantain. Like I said, this is really good after a sunburn or something like that. But also, this plant it's just full of all the nutrients from the soil. So I just pulled it, and now I'm going to put it right back down at the base of my carrots where it was. But before, where it was competing with the carrot, now it's giving to the carrot. Same with this one. Before it was competing with the carrot, now it's going to give its nutrients to the carrot. Really useful. So let's pick another one. Carrots are small and they don't compete against weeds. So just pick that, crush it up, put it at the base of my carrots. I've also got some horsetail here. So I'm going to pick this up, and horsetail is really good too because lots of bugs don't like horsetail because horsetail is full of silica, which is something the bugs don't like. It kind of cuts through their exoskeleton, I guess, the silica does. And so pull the horsetail and I put it at the base of my carrots. Here's some more horsetail right here. Pull it and put it at the base of the carrots. Pull it right back to where it was, and it'll help the carrot that it was competing against a minute ago. Another weed, pull it, put it at the base of the carrots. Another weed, pull it like that, put it at the base of the carrots. So what are you doing here by doing this? A lot of things. By pulling the weeds and putting them at the base of your vegetables, you're doing so many things. You are feeding your vegetables. 1. 2, you are protecting the roots from drying in the sun, and you're keeping the soil moist. 3, you are encouraging soil life, which is important for the roots of your vegetables, because you're encouraging soil life, soil fungus, and all the rest of it, bacteria, everything that's in the soil, all that life, you're helping to encourage that, which is going to make your vegetables happy and healthy. What else? You are also, by putting this at the base of your plants, the bugs are maybe going to smell this instead of the plant. And then they're going to say, oh, there's no carrots around here. I'm going to go look for them somewhere else. And then also, by putting weeds at the base of your plants, in many cases, those weeds will simply protect them from the bugs. Like the horsetail. They're going to see this horsetail and say, whoa, I don't like this. I'm going to go eat somewhere else. So many uses. Use the weeds. They're right there. That's the thing. You see, the very first permaculture principle, or one of them anyway, is to use things in place. So, for instance, this horsetail, I picked it here. I'm going to use it here. I'm not going to take it away. So what does that do? First, it keeps the nutrients in the soil where they came from. Second, it saves you time. And if it saves you time, it's going to save you money too, because you see, you're using this horsetail as mulch, or as your plant protector, or as to keep the soil moist, or to improve soil life, or to build the soil. You're using it for all those things instead of going out and buying mulch, or going out and buying compost, or going out and buying different things to protect your plants with, all sorts of bizarre things that you can buy. You can just get it right here. And so you're saving time, you're saving money. By keeping it here, you're not making any trips. You know, it's like, oh, I need my mulch, I'm gonna go get it. Well, that's 5 minutes that, or 10 minutes or whatever that it's gonna take you to go get it, when you can have it immediately right here. So that's a really important permaculture principle. Save you time, save you money, save you energy, and also save the soil, save your plants. Let's continue. This is mullein. You can use it as a bag or as a glove. If you don't want to dirty your hands and you need to carry something that might dirty your hands, or if you need to carry something and you don't have a pail or you don't have a bag, well, you can use mullein. Just lay the leaves out crossways like this, put what you need to carry in the middle, and just fold it up like it was a tamal of banana leaves or corn husk leaves. There you go. And there you got your bag to carry in this case, carry some soil with. This is another type of plantain. This is called narrow leaf plantain. I don't usually pull it like this, but I pulled it up because I wanted to show it to you. And this plant was growing particularly close to some plants that it was kind of shading too much. So this is narrow leaf plantain. It's like the other plantain I showed you. Actually, it's right here. This one, it's all wilted now because it's been about 5 minutes since I pulled it. This one is starting to go to flower, and the seeds can be used as flour. You can put them, you can add them to your wheat flour and so on for making bread and stuff. But like the regular plantain, this plantain can also be used if you get sunburn or an injury. You know, just wipe any part of your skin that's burnt or injured, and it's just full of beautiful nutrients, and it's full of juice, mucilaginous juice, I think it's called, and so it's really good for a sunburn and for any type of injury. Very refreshing. You could also clean your hands with it. It's very clean and so on. Oh, my ears, yeah, my ears get sunburnt easily. Yeah, there we go. Oh, why not rub it on my beard? Because maybe my beard needs some. Decades ago, people used to put oil in their beards and stuff like that, and in their hair. Well, this is, say, the same idea. You see that? So that's what it looked like before. This is what it looks like now. You see, you can see the juices in there. You know, and now what I can do with this, another thing I can do with this, because it's so full of nutrients, I've got a pail here. I talked to you about compost, making compost, having little compost piles all over your garden ready to use. You can also make compost tea. I can throw this in the pail along with all sorts of weeds and put water in there, and they're going to start to decompose. Or I could put, you know, I could just put it in the garden, on the side of the garden, like here, right here, let it decompose. And then once it's decomposed, stick it in the pail, put water in that, and then make what's called a compost tea. But you can do that with fresh plants, or you can do it with compost. And then you fill it with water, you mix that water up, and then you water your plants with it. I will often use compost tea when I'm transplanting to just give the plants a boost while I'm planting them. So I'll bring a bucket, put compost in the bottom of it, maybe the bottom this much, and then fill the water up to about here, so it's not too heavy. And then I will use it while I'm transplanting. You've probably seen me transplant, and instead of the water being transparent, it's probably brown or green or something. Well, that's why. You know, I used to hate weeding. I just thought I was killing all sorts of plants, especially when, you know, if ever I was in a new place and I wasn't sure what it was I was pulling. You know, I'd be pulling things and I'd be wondering, well, what could this become? And so often I'd just let them grow. and I ended up with a whole bunch of weeds and not a whole bunch of harvest. Of course, I learned a lot about edible weeds and medicinal plants at that time, because I learned everything about everything that ended up growing. But you know, I had to learn to give my plants the space they needed in order to be able to have a harvest. But it was always difficult, always difficult. But now everything's changed, because now I almost take a pleasure in weeding, because I realize that when I'm weeding, at the same time as weeding, I'm mulching. At the same time, I'm feeding my plants. At the same time, I'm ensuring that the moisture stays in the soil. At the same time, I'm feeding the soil. At the same time, I'm helping to increase biodiversity in the soil. At the same time, I'm learning about the plants that draw nutrients from deep in the soil and bring it up to those vegetables that maybe you don't have access to that. What I'm also doing at the same time is allowing these beautiful plants, these weeds that I'm weeding, to pass on all of their energy and all of their goodness to other plants, and to continue the web of life. And then at the same time, I'm also finding that those plants have so many other uses as well, just in the garden. That's sort of what the video is about today. It's while you're in the garden, you need something, you don't have it on you, often a weed can do the job. And so I have fun, it's creative, I can create situations with my weeds. So it makes the process just, it's almost like it's less work and it's more pleasure, more discovery, more learning. And then the result, of course, beautiful healthy plants, happy plants, beautiful healthy soil, nutritious for us, nutritious for the animals around, and just plain beautiful. The joy of weeding. So use the weeds. This video is about use the weeds. The weeds can multiply your abundance and help you in so many ways in the garden for so many things, so you don't have to go looking for them. You know, this is what I bring into the garden when I come garden. I just put my tools in a basket like this, and I'm always leaving them lying around, and I never have gloves on me and stuff like that. So suddenly I need something. Well, often a weed can take care of that for me. So I hope you liked the video. I hope you found it useful. If you found it useful, share it with your friends. And if you haven't done so yet, then subscribe. Subscribe to our channel, support our channel. All you have to do is subscribe. And what that means is maybe you'll see other upcoming videos. Come back, see our other videos. Don't forget to comment, ask us your questions. It'd be a pleasure to answer your questions or to respond to your comments. Have a great week, and we will see you next time.